I'm going to share some of my personal thoughts about polyamory and my personal relationship to polyamory, because a lot of people online, I feel like, genuinely don't get it, and even people in the poly community sometimes don't get it. Polyamory is not diametrically opposed to monogamy because there are more people involved. Polyamory is diametrically opposed to monogamy due to the fluid state of connection and relationship. Too many people view polyamory as a +1, +2 situation, or an open relationship situation, or a situation that inherently requires you to have more people, and that is the only reason that you are poly, is because you want more people. The reality is there are a lot of polyamorous people that are only in relationships with one other person. There are a lot of polyamorous people that do not sleep with other people. Polyamory is a greater relationship dynamic. It does not inherently mean +1. Polyamory is not just a specifically sexual thing, and it's also not just a specifically romantic thing. It is an inherently fluid thing. It's going to mean something different to every single person you talk to, and that's what makes it special, but that's also what can make it kind of hard to understand for people who only have monogamous brains, and people who therefore only see relationships as very black and white situations, as things that have predetermined structure, or as things that have to exist in a certain way. I think this is also why a lot of trans people are also polyamorous. The fluidity in which we engage with our own bodies and our identities in a societal level allow us to explore and experience and find joy in more fluidity in other societally rigid things, such as the concept of relationships. But I don't think a lot of monogamous people are gonna still understand what I'm saying, even while I'm trying to explain it right now. I think a lot of the polyamorous hate in the world comes from the fact that people genuinely believe joy can only come from very specific structures or predetermined labels, the same way that a lot of cis and straight people think that joy and health can only come from predetermined sexuality concepts or predetermined gender experiences. The flexibility that comes with polyamory and the ever-changing meaning for every single person you encounter who is poly is going to throw a lot of people off. It is literally like having to undo homophobia. Are polyamorous people inherently oppressed because they are poly? It depends on what they want out of their life. Polyamorous people face disadvantages when it comes to having children, when it comes to multi-person marriage equality, when it comes to wills, end-of-life rights, when it comes to safety in regards to healthcare and police, in order to escape judgment from those things, especially if they are queer and poly. Polyamorous is not a queer identity, but it goes hand in hand with queerness, and I personally believe the polyamorous hate or polyamorous discrimination comes from a similar pocket as homophobia. And I also think the same way people try to police queer identities, hatred towards micro-labels, hatred towards neo-pronouns, the same attitude gets taken to the different nuances and micro experiences within polyamory. People want to put these fluid, unique experiences into pre-understood heteronormative boxes, and that's not gonna work. I'm grateful every single day to be a poly person in relationships with other poly people, friends with other poly people, and experiencing the world in a new and fun way that is special to me and my relationships and my loved ones. But not everyone is going to understand that. Maybe some people will grow to understand my version of polyamory, but they might not understand the greater version of polyamory. They might have problems with different poly people they meet because maybe their experience of being poly is not the same as mine. And also, some people can have bad experiences in multi person relationships or polyamorous relationship dynamics, and that can put them off. But the thing about polyamory is polyamory involves human beings, and not every human being is a good person. Monogamous relationships are traumatizing and sometimes even deadly, but that doesn't make inherently monogamous relationships evil. The same way that polyamorous relationships can be toxic, can be confusing, and that does not make polyamory inherently toxic, confusing, or wrong. All of this to say is that I think a lot of people's views of polyamory might improve if they decide to kind of let go a bit. And I think that if you find yourself being biased towards polyamory or biased towards poly people, maybe sit and actually process why you're biased towards it. Because really, unless you're dating them yourself, doesn't really affect you, does it? It's the same kind of thing as, oh, well, you don't believe in gay marriage? Well, then you don't have to get gay married. Oh, you don't quote unquote believe in polyamory? Then you don't have to be a poly person. Simple as that.